Arizona delivers an emphatic win against BYU, and a clear rotation emerges in that second half.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke, your team every day, Locked On. The show is brought to you today by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Arizona basketball takes care of business in a resounding way against BYU, and this was just a monster game all the way around for the Wildcats. There's no other way to put it. BYU, this was a game that a lot of people thought, I think, that the Wildcats were going to struggle in, that the Wildcats probably wouldn't be able to win. And there's a reason why. BYU's a solid team. You could tell that. They got a lot of dudes that can shoot, and surprisingly, they got some guys that can get to the basket as well. But Arizona also was just, quite frankly, better. And in the second half, when Trey Townsend went out, we certainly hope he's okay. That lineup that Arizona had, where you got Henri Veesaar, I almost said Henri Veesaar, Carter Bryant, KJ Lewis, Caleb Love, and Jaden Bradley. BYU didn't know what to do with that lineup, and that was something that there's just no other way around it. BYU had no clue what to do with that lineup, and it was cool to see. Arizona went in there, and they just kind of smacked them around. Then they were able to get to the basket. Some of the shooting for the spacers was evident as well. There was just a lot of really, really good things that you could take away from that game, and I think more so than anything, you know now what exactly your best lineup is. Now, again, I think this has probably been evident for people for quite a while, but sometimes things take a little bit longer than maybe we would hope. But when you've got Henri Veesaar in there patrolling the middle, blocking shots, and you've got Carter Bryant, who I know is going to do some silly things from time to time. He's young. He's going to make some dumb fouls. I get all of that. But when you watch them, though, you also can tell that that's your best lineup, and it's a very difficult lineup to guard because you've got a lot of different dudes that can do a lot of different things. You got a lot of guys that can get to the basket, and you watch it, and it's just kind of like, well, this is going to be a problem for opposing teams going forward. And Arizona now is 10-1 in the Big 12. I mean, I don't know that anybody could have thought that we'd be sitting here talking about Arizona being 12-1 or 10-1 in the Big 12 with a chance for the Texas Tech game to be even bigger. But that's where we're at. That's where we're at this point. And make no mistake, too, this was a massive, massive game for Arizona and how they were able to deal with the that environment. Every time it felt like, BYU was about to take like the lead or whatever, Jaden Bradley would either drive to the basket or Caleb Love would do the exact same thing or hit a massive three and would set Arizona right back to where they were before that little run. Then Arizona would go on a run after that, and then the game was essentially kaput. Big stuff, though, all the way around. There's no other way to put it. This was a big, big win for Arizona. Another quad one win, and you start looking at it now, and I think you start wondering to yourself, is this a team that can be what kind of seeding are we really looking at here? Is this a team that can be a top, 3 to 4 seed? I don't know that they're not. I don't know that you can sit here and say that they're not, that's impossible with the way that they're playing right now. And the talent is obviously there. And again, one guy that you got to give a lot of credit to as well is Tobe Awaka. Now, I don't know if the Awaka is the best. I don't know if Awaka is part of the best lineup. I don't know, but I know that I really, really like having Tobe Awaka on the court. He is his offensive rebounding, his putbacks, everything that he does is just he just gets it. There are certain guys in basketball, there are certain guys in life that just kind of get life, that get basketball. He doesn't try to do anything that he can't do. He makes pretty much everything around the rim now, or he gets fouled, which is another huge aspect to this. So he's become a really, really good finisher around the bucket. And I think it's something that you got to say to yourself, man, where are we at now with this, and how are we going forward? I'm excited to see this because there's a lot of dudes on this team that I think can do a lot of different things, but a big part of this obviously is Caleb Love getting back into form. Arizona needed Caleb Love to play like an All-American this season, and for a good percentage of the season, he did it. Good percentage of this season, he struggled, but he stepped back into that role that I think so many of us knew that he could do, and he's making threes. He's getting to the basket, which is a huge thing for me, is getting to the basket. I've said this a million times. There's no reason that a guy that has that kind of skill should just be floating around the perimeter. That's what guys who don't have any skill can do. He can get to the bucket. He can get fouled. And when he does that, Arizona is definitely better for the wear. So we will, again, we're going to see how this plays out. The other thing, too, this team's tough. This team's tough. There's no other way around it. This team is tough. You watch them, and they rally around each other. This obviously means a lot to them. And just seeing how that they are able to how all of this is just able to kind of unfold is really cool to see. You don't see this a lot where guys just, really develop. As a matter of fact, this has kind of been the exact opposite of what some of Tommy Lloyd's teams have done, where they start out super, super fast, win all their games, and then they start to struggle a little bit as the season goes on. That hasn't been the case with this team at all. As a matter of fact, it's obviously been the exact opposite. What does that mean going forward? But first, game time. Check out Game Time. Here's the deal with Game Time. Looking for tickets for your next big event, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports game? Finding the right ticket at the right place can be a headache. But with Game Time picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how this works. All right, here's the deal with Game Time. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste any of your time. If you're like me and you don't know what you're doing, this is going to be perfect for you. And again, ready to make your next event even better? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Again, not just for sporting events, concerts, you name it. They got a lot of different things going on at Game Time. You will thank me later. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats, your team every day, and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit then about just kind of what this means going forward for the Wildcats. It's game on, baby. It's game on. 10-1. You got Texas Tech coming to town. That's obviously going to be a tough game. But Arizona, that's a game that Arizona, I think, can absolutely win. You win that game, I think you start really looking about and being like, man, this is getting real. Are you going to be a 3 seed? Are you going to be a 4 seed? Whatever the case may be, we're going to find that one out. I don't know exactly how this is going to play out. I don't think anybody knows exactly how this is going to play out. But I do think that I do think it's fair to say that right now Arizona is in a very enviable spot, and they're playing better ball. As the season goes on, they're continuing to play better ball. And, that's something that people always talk about. Where are you when things really start to hit? And, again, at this time of the year, Arizona, a lot of times have kind of been going through that lull where you're playing Stanford or you're playing Oregon State or you're playing just one of those schools that just isn't that good. That's just kind of hard to really get up for. And players don't really get up for it. Again, these guys are, they're still humans at the end of the day. And I think it's a lot of times it's difficult to just get excited about a game where you're like, all right, well, guess we're going to play, in a half-packed arena again. Half-packed arena, what do you mean, like 10 people in there? That's just not the way that it generally goes. So we will see. I am excited though also to see just kind of how this rotation continues to play out regarding Trey Townsend. Obviously, hope Trey Townsend's good. Hoping that everything is all right with him. As far as minutes go, 10 minutes max. I can't have him in more than that. Because he can't rebound, he can't score, he can't really do much. When he's playing 20 minutes, 25 minutes, that's too many. That's just too many out there, and I don't think that that's sustainable for the Wildcats. You know what your rotation is at this time. Your six best players are pretty clear at this point. You've got Carter Bryant, you've got Henri Veesaar, you got KJ Lewis, you got Caleb Love, you got Jaden Bradley, and then you've got Carter Bryant, or I think I mentioned him. And then you got Tobe Awaka, and then ADO. ADO is kind of your spot minute. I mean, there's going to be some games where ADO is really, really good. There's going to be some games where ADO can't play a ton. It is what it is. I think with ADO though, he definitely can do some things that other people that don't really show up necessarily. He's pretty creative around the basket, and I think that's something that a lot of people have kind of taken for granted. And he's actually a fairly good assist guy as well. Something that's kind of underrated about him. So there's that. Now, Arizona in first place in the Big 12. I know that sounds awesome to say. What does that mean exactly? What does that mean exactly? That means a lot, because now you start playing with a little bit of house money. If you can go 6-3 down the stretch, I mean, heck, 7-2 would be awesome. But if you can go 6-3 down the stretch, and you're 16-4 in the Big 12, I mean, going into the season, if anybody were to tell you that you're going to go 16-4 in the Big 12, I think everybody would take that, and I think you would take that every single day of the week. I know I would. And I think the pieces are there. Again, this team is tough. There's no way around it. This team is tough. It is a team that is from a rebounding perspective, from a toughness perspective, from a getting downhill perspective. You got a lot of guys that can play, and they're starting to really find out their roles as well. KJ Lewis starting to find out his role, obviously. One thing, don't dribble around, just dribble with purpose, and then you're good. Caleb Love, same thing. Caleb Love is, but his is a little bit different. I like to see him drive to the basket. I like to see him a little bit more involved, because when he does that, things really open up for Arizona. Love seeing that. Pardon the pun. And then after that, you got, Henri Veesaar. Henri patrol in the middle is a problem, because he can block shots, he can rebound, he can do a lot of different things, and he can make the three, and he's shooting the three with confidence. I think that's the best part about Arizona. And then Carter Bryant, obviously, Carter's got just a ton of talent. Carter shooting the three, Carter blocking shots. Again, he's going to have some dumb fouls. He's never committed a foul. You can watch him and see that he has never committed a foul. But he is he's just a breath of fresh air. So this team's going to be interesting when Arizona plays Houston. That's going to be a tough one, because Houston is very physical. They're very strong, and again, when you watch Houston, that's a team that looks like they can cut down the nets. Now, again, they're going to have some scoring issues. They always will, but they're tough, they're physical, and they're very, very good, obviously. But with your Arizona, the big thing now is continuing to push that resume. You got that Texas Tech game coming up. Continue to with Texas Tech. You got to be able, if you can win that game at home, and I think you start probably careening towards being ranked about 14 or so. And I think at that point, then you start saying, okay, how far can Arizona really push this one? Because can you get to that into that 3 line? And I think that's something that would be very, very enjoyable for a ton of Arizona fans, especially with the way that this season played out. Now, tomorrow we're going to talk a ton about that. We're going to go around the Big 12. We're going to talk about the teams that, have really surprised, some of the teams that I think have struggled a little bit, and just kind of where Arizona is. Also, ASU. You got to assume that this is Bobby Hurley's last stand. That team stinks. He acts like a moron. That's generally not a recipe for long-term sustainability. Don't know what else to say on that one, but that was going to be a fun one to watch as well, because that just doesn't really, like I said, that really doesn't feel like something that is probably being talked about enough. Well, guess what? We will talk about him, and we will talk about that as well on this show, and we'll try to get into a little bit of football as well. But as always, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A, and we will be back with you tomorrow. Again, Locked On, your team every day.